Hi guys, Michelle Visser here, author, podcast host, and I blog over at soulyrested.com about simple living and real food. Today I'm in the garden. It just started to rain, so my glasses are eventually going to be covered in raindrops, but I'm going to go ahead and try and film this. We'll see how far I get. At the end of this video, I will give you a tour of all three of our vegetable gardens, but I want to start in this one because this is what the video is all about. This is our brand new garden. And you know what? I'm going to need to move because my phone is getting so wet. Okay, this is better. I'm under a tarp area, so I'm going to be able to stay dry even if it keeps raining. So this is our new garden right here. And it's quite a story. Where this used to be, no, where this is used to be an old stable that we used for our milk cows. Originally, it was built as a horse stable, but it worked great for our two cows. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a barn fire. We were devastated. It took the whole stable. It left the foundation in a burned up, scarred mess. All of the big, heavy mats that were under one section of it that the hay was in, those were half burned and just left. Like, it was a mess here, I'll be honest with you. And we just really didn't know what we wanted to do with the area. And it's just sat there, a mess, for that long, I'm embarrassed to say. But starting a couple years ago, I knew I needed more garden space. So a couple years ago, I added on just a small area, which is kind of our second garden that I'll show you. And that wasn't enough. I knew it wasn't enough, but it was just something to get me through last summer. And then this spring, my daughter Kayla was living in the area, and she actually is the one that owned the cows. They were actually her cows. And the whole, the whole barn fire was really, it hit her the worst because she's the one that cared for the cows daily. The cows were fine, I should say, by the way. They survived the fire, but the fire took all of our fencing. So we had to desperately and quickly find new homes for the cows. And we had no fenced area anymore. Anyway, that's a whole different story. I'm not going to get into more of that right now. But we had this burnt up foundation. We didn't even know how deep the foundation went. But this spring, Kayla said, Mom, I know you need more gardens. Let's do it. Let's take that area where the stable had been, clear it out, pull out the foundation, and make a garden. I hesitated a little, but I thought, you know what? If she is willing to help me, daggone it, the two of us can do this. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty much a pain in the butt. It was more complicated than we imagined. Kayla dug down so many feet and still was discovering cinder blocks. Like, they buried cinder blocks around the foundation so deep. So all of those came out. That was our first step. And then part of the walls were still there. Those had to be taken out, kind of disassembled as they were dug out. Quite a mess. And of course, the whole time we're finding so many burnt up nails, metal pieces, so much glass from the broken windows when there was an explosion, when the fire was happening. Just a mess, guys. Buckets and buckets full of mess. Once we got all of that cleared, like, we thought, okay, the debris is gone. These old heavy mats, they're gone. All the foundation, the cinder blocks, took them out. We started to feel good. Like, okay, look how much we've accomplished. And then we started taking the sod and moving it to another area where we needed it in our backyard, in an area we wanted to put a patio. So that was good. Extra work, but good. Once all the sod was removed, then we realized we were kind of just starting the whole battle, because when this barn was built, I believe it was probably the early 70s, for some reason they used a combination of giant pockets of sand and something that looked like Sculpey clay, some kind of clay and sand in pockets, random pockets, all over where the foundation had been of the barn. So we're digging and we're digging and we're removing sand, we're removing clay, and we still find more, and we think we're done and we find more. Finally, we got to the point, it was past planting time. And we had thought, you know what, we think maybe we got it all. We've just got to move on. Brought in a lot of compost and good dirt and started planting. as we're planting, I kid you not, I don't know how this is even possible, but we were finding more of that weird, sculpy looking clay and lots more sand. And it was so discouraging. So I'm telling you all of this to let you know how this garden, honestly, almost shouldn't have happened. This garden got off to a really bad start. This garden still has broken glass, broken old rusted nails, and sand and clay in it. It just does. But I have two things that I have learned by amending this garden that I want to share with you. And these two things are actually part of four things that I have learned about gardening in just the past 5 or 6 years. I've been gardening my whole life. Since I was a wee little, I watched my dad do it, loved getting my hands in the dirt, learned everything that he taught me, and I just love gardening. But just recently, I've learned these four things that have been complete game changer for me. Up leveled my gardening to a new level. So check the link in the description if you'd like to know all four things. Only two of them relate directly to this garden, so I'm focusing on those two things the rest of this video. But there is a complete podcast episode where I go into deep information about these four things that have up leveled my gardening. So that's in the description. So the two things. First of all, organic fertilizer. This stuff is amazing. And I've been applying it every week, starting with very first week. I can tell you I was shocked. I literally saw the results. In just a few days, I'm thinking, these plants are growing extraordinarily quickly in just these couple days. Like, what's going on? I think I'm really seeing the results of the fertilizer. And sure enough, every week we experience this again and again. It's amazing. I am a huge fan of this fertilizer. It's completely organic, which, first of all, I didn't know such a thing existed, that there really were good organic fertilizers. But even better, it's a liquid one, which means it can be absorbed by the plant faster. But it goes another step. Those first two things I have learned you can find in a lot of different places if you look hard and find a good company. But this third thing, I'm pretty sure you can't find anywhere else. And that's why I am truly a huge fan of this fertilizer. This fertilizer is that's not the word. I don't know the scientific word. They've done something to make it already breaking down. And the plant, whatever the plant would have to take time to do, they've already done. So it's all natural and all ready for the plant to start digesting immediately, which is crazy. Not only that, it's made from byproducts of the fish industry and the corn industry. These are byproducts that would probably just go to a landfill, but they're super good for our plants and for all the microbial life in the soil. It's feeding that as well. It's replenishing your soil. Unlike most fertilizers, it's not just good for your plant, it's good for the soil. So this was not my intention to sound like a commercial. I just realized I sound like an info commercial for this fertilizer. But I will tell you, it's made a world of difference. This garden, amazing. And I firmly believe part of the reason, I know what I was just going to say, part of the reason is this fertilizer. The second reason that this garden is doing so well, before we planted anything, I have a little secret that I used in the soil to give a spark of life to the soil, knowing that it was getting off on a bad foot, knowing that these poor plants were going to encounter clay and sand at some point as they're growing their roots. I wanted to do everything I could to enrich this soil as much as I could. And when I heard about this amendment a couple of years ago, I knew right away, this sounds amazing. This sounds like something I need to be using in my gardens annually. And that's what I've done for the past few years. It is an all-natural amendment made with salt and volcanic ash. And it is literally giving the microbial life in your soil the spark that it needs to be able to communicate, to be able to share nutrients, and to be able to do its job to make your soil the best that it can be. You're never going to have tall corn. You're never going to have lush tomatoes. You're never going to have beautiful peppers. You're never going to have vibrantly blooming flowers in your garden if the soil isn't already rich and if your soil isn't full of nutrients that it's able to give to your plants. So that's what this amendment does, and I'm a huge fan. Because this garden got off to such a poor start, I actually am adding some of that amendment now in mid towards end of summer. I'm adding just a little bit through the rows of the garden just to give the garden some more spark, to really encourage it in this hard season of trying to do a good job when plants are stuck with clay and sand in some spots. So I want to give that spark of happiness to the soil where the microbial life is living and growing, to just keep that happy for the rest of the summer. So this is not something I typically do. I typically only apply this once early spring before I plant anything. I cover the entire garden with this amazing amendment. But like I said, this year I'm adding it just a little bit more to this one garden. So those are the two secrets. That's the story of my garden. I'm super happy. Let me give you a garden tour, and thanks for listening. Check out the description for lots more information, and please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up if this video was useful to you, and please leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Give me your comments. Tell me about things that you've done for your gardens that have been beneficial for you.